everything we do in life is a pipeline. So every decision we make, whether it's buying groceries or major life decisions like jobs, we are sending everything we do through a funnel. Whatever the reason, if you are keeping something in the funnel that doesn't belong there, you are creating opportunity cost inside your organization, inside your thought process, inside your brainstorm activity. Anytime you are not honest and scratching out things that you should be disqualifying, you are creating opportunity cost. Whether you're a dentist or you make clothes for a living, have a point of view on what good looks like in your industry, and people will take you seriously.
That's Kara Smith-Brown. She's a recognized logistics thought leader and founder and CEO of Lead Coverage, which helps drive B2B business growth and success. Her new book, The Revenue Engine, Fueling a B2B High-Octane Pipeline, shares perspectives for anyone, which may well be everyone, working a pipeline and a funnel. So you'll learn 1, how and why to think of your career as a funnel, 2, why maybes are more dangerous than no's, and 3, how to develop and share a unique point of view that gets you noticed. If you like a summary write-up of these actual takeaways, I recommend you sign up for the free Gold Nugget email newsletter found at awesomeatyourjob.com. I'm Pete Mikaitis. This is How to Be Awesome at Your Job. And now, here's Kara. Kara, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I have been looking forward to this for weeks.
Oh, me too. I'm super excited. Well, this is rare that I knew you in college and then just discovered you wrote a book that needs to be on the podcast. So that's kind of a new one. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. You are clearly not one of my 14,000 or so logistics and supply chain followers on LinkedIn, because I feel like everyone in supply chain and logistics knows about this book, which was the idea, actually.
Well, yeah, good work.
Yeah, mission accomplished.
Well, no, I'm not great at logistics, but it was so funny. I'm trying to buy a big, heavy studio door for recording stuff. And I was talking to this mill, and they said, "Oh, we don't even know how to get a door to you." It's like, all right, you got to call a 3PL. That's a third-party logistics company. You got to tell them you want an LTL, a less than truckload. And then and so I was like, why am I figuring out how you can send me a door? It's like, because I've been talking to Kara. I know some things.
I will happily help you get that door, by the way.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I definitely know people that can help with that, for sure.
Awesome. Well, you've got so much fun stuff in your book, The Revenue Engine. And so even though most of our listeners are not in go-to-market or GTM teams, which you've defined as sales, marketing, and customer success-ish type roles, those who go to the market and get their money, if you will. But some are, but I think you've got some universal wisdom about goal setting, points of view, meeting your audience, and so much more. So can you tell us the story of a disastrous meeting that changed the way you think?
This is really funny. Yeah. So I will tell you the story of probably one of the worst meetings of my career. So I was early to a very sexy company there in Chicagoland called Echo Global Logistics. And I was one of the first employees there. And we walked into a leadership meeting because I, Kara, decided that I was going to share my expertise on branding with a team of men that were running the company I was working for. And my sheer naivete and confidence at setting this meeting to begin with today shocks me. But you and I knew each other in college, so maybe it doesn't shock you that I was this confident in my early 20s. And so I brought them all into this meeting room and I said, look at my PowerPoint with how we're going to use the brand colors and the taglines and all of these cool things that I thought was important. So I'm mid sentence and one of them stands up and he says, "What the heck are we doing here? Why are you wasting everyone's time? Don't ever call a meeting like this ever again," and just walks out the door. And the guy that I actually reported to was a little more apologetic. And he's like, "Hey, sorry, this isn't really what we're looking for. We should probably have these conversations before you call the entire leadership team of the business into one of these meetings." But I took away from that super uncomfortable conversation, okay, these guys that are running a freight brokerage for all intents and purposes, and we're a startup and we're trying to make money, all they wanted me to do was participate in generating revenue. And what I had brought them was a color palette. It was so misaligned to what they really wanted me to do. And thankfully for me, fast forward 3 years, they did appreciate what I brought to the table by the time that I exited. And it was a wonderful experience. But I took away from that sort of horrible, horrible moment where you're like, your gut sinks down and you're like, I'm going to get fired, right? This is a horrible experience for me. Turn it into kind of what would drive me for the next 15 or 20 years around what does matter and how do I never get kicked out of another meeting like that? And how do I actually get asked to be at the table? So, full cycle, which is really funny, is I'm now on boards. And I got my first paid board seat a few weeks ago. And so I've come, thank you. Yeah. So I've come full circle from like, hey, get the heck out of here to no, we really want you in the room because you bring value.
Well, I love that story for many reasons. One, because it's so emotional, and two, it's because that sucks to hear. That must have just been a total gut punch, very unpleasant in the moment. And yet, what a gift! What a gift to have that clear, unambiguous feedback. Like what you are saying is not at all what we want.
Yeah, and don't ever say it again.
And yet, at the same time, it's totally understandable. Like in the book, you said I was the marketing girl. In the marketing is a big word that can mean a lot of things. And for some people may want exactly a color palette, exactly a brand voice, guidelines, fonts, perspectives, consistency. That some people, that's exactly what they need at a certain point. For them, it was not at all, and they let you know it. And so they wanted to hear, when it comes to marketing, how you do stuff and that turns into customers and revenue.
Yeah, they did not want to hear about the color palette. And no difference to folks that do design and branding. It's super, super important. It's just not something that I do. And so as a professional today, we as a company, today I'm the CEO of a company called Lead Coverage, and we do zero graphic design. So we lead to the customers and we say, listen, we will do all of the math for you. We are very, very into how you measure what's happening in your marketing group, how you measure your go-to-market. But we are not the team that's going to give you a new logo or a new website or a new look and feel. There are incredible branding shops out there that'll do that for you. It's just not what we do.
Understood. So then what is the big idea behind your book, The Revenue Engine?
Yeah. So the big idea is go to market needs to be measured. And it needs to be measured 3 ways: through volume, velocity, and value inside of 3 funnels. We think about it as the prospect funnel. Those are strangers, people who do not know who you are today. The nurture funnel, who are folks that do know you but aren't quite customers yet. And then the customer funnel, which is cross-sell, upsell opportunities. And we execute all of this in a 3-step motion we call share good news, track interest, follow up.
All right. Very succinctly put. You've practiced this,
I have
Kara.
practiced, yes. Many stages, many coaches, all the things.
Lovely. Okay. Well, so now some of our listeners find themselves in a go-to-market role. Many do not, but I think this is pretty handy in terms of anytime you're trying to move anything through a pipeline in terms of, let's say you're looking for a job. And so there's prospects and there's folks you want to get their attention. You want to get some meetings with them and sell yourself. You've also applied some of this in your own romantic life, Kara. Can we hear the tale about how this hunky fitness model nuclear physicist, shout out Eric, became your husband?
Yeah, you met him long
I
before
did,
we
yeah.
were married. We hung out many times before this actual event happened. So I was training for Ironman Wisconsin, which was a big deal. And he told me that we would get engaged after the Ironman, which Kara, in her 26 or 27-year-old brain, heard at the finish line of the Ironman. So when I accomplished this Ironman goal and there was no ring at the finish line, I was immediately disappointed, right? And then I did an IPO. So my name was on the IPO press release for the company I worked for, Echo Global Logistics. It was a big damn deal. It was awesome. It was like the coolest thing ever. I owned my own house. I was a 10 out of 10, Pete. Like Chicago dating scene, 2009, I was top shelf, right? And I was saying to this guy, listen, if it's not you, that's fine. but I need to get this back on the market if it's not you. So let's do this or let's not. And so he said, yes, yes, we'll do it. We'll do it. And I said, okay, great. So I did what any normal girl would do. And I booked the church. So I called my parents' church in Schaumburg, Illinois, and I said, hey, I need to book a wedding. And Father George, rest in peace, said, hey, great, congrats on your engagement. And I said, Father George, I'm not engaged, but if this doesn't do it, you can keep the $100. So let's just book it. So we did. And he sent me the receipt in the mail. And I put the receipt on my refrigerator and I took off all the other magnets on the fridge in my little house in Chicago. And Eric came over one night and leaned closely into this document on the refrigerator and stopped and said, hey, what is this? I said, oh, I forgot to tell you, I booked the church for my wedding. And he was like, what wedding? And I was like, well, honey, this is a 10 out of 10. And so if you don't want this in 265 days, someone else is going to be at the end of the aisle. And I'm kind of tired of waiting for you. So someone will be there. And if it's not you, it'll be someone else. And so 2 weeks later, I had a ring and it was the best hard close of my entire life. And in the book, I use this to talk about funnels and how top of the funnel, you end up dating a bunch of folks. Like you and I met in college, right? And in college, there's a whole bunch of ideal customer profiles all shoved into one place. And so you're pretty lucky if you find one there. And you date some and some get away from you, et cetera, et cetera. This is moving down the funnel. And then finally, you have to kind of like sometimes put it on the line and do that hard close before one gets across the finish line. So it's my silly story to talk about funnels and dating in Chicago and how they're kind of the same thing.
Well, let's talk a bit about funnels and pipelines, and we'll take it maybe one level away from abstraction, not only in business to business sales, but in anything in which there are people and we want them to take an action. How do we think about doing this well?
Well, I think it's whether you're looking for a job or for us looking for candidates, right? Like looking for candidates is exactly the same thing. We have LinkedIn now where we can see basically every candidate in our geography. We can narrow it down by, region and where they went to school and how much experience they have, et cetera. Everything we do in life is a pipeline. Every time you shop, right? I am a Nordstrom aficionado, which will not surprise you as my friend from many years ago. And I am constantly on the website looking for on their like narrowing down my filters to get just the right pair of pants or just the right, jacket for whatever outfit I'm wearing. So every decision we make, whether it's buying groceries or like major life decisions like jobs, we are sending everything we do through a funnel. And so we put 3 funnels in place. And here's the really interesting piece about a funnel. You can't go up a funnel ever. You can't ever move up a funnel. And so what I really like about the way that we laid out these 3 funnels is to go from one to the other, there is a true flexion point. There is a moment where you have to exit one funnel to enter the next. And the flexion point is where the measurement happens. This is where the magic happens. And so we talk a lot about deltas and ratios and conversion ratios, and it's all kind of boring. But I think what's really, really important is at the bottom of the first funnel, there's a flexion point before you get to enter the top of the next funnel. So whether you're looking for a spouse or looking for a job or doing demand gen and go to market and B2B, it's the flexion point that matters.
Okay, so for example, we might just be thinking of ideas as at one level, and then the next level might be proposals or agenda items at the meeting. So we've exited one funnel, which is just my head. It's like, okay, I got 20 ideas, 14 of them are kind of dumb. So I've worked through that funnel, and now there's 6 of them I'm going to go ahead and bring to my teammates, and then we're going to discuss those, and some will get ejected, and then some will move forward on further. But to your point, is they don't go backwards in terms of is like, hey, forget we ever spoke of that like a judge. Strike this from the record. I never brought that up. It's going back to my in my head idea stage.
Yeah. And I think the key is opportunity cost. Every idea that is not struck from the board that you move through, even though you know it's the wrong idea, represents opportunity cost. And it's the same with dating, and it's the same with candidates, and it's the same with jobs, and it's the same with a pipeline in a B2B environment. Every prospect that you leave in the funnel that you know will not convert for whatever reason. Timing is bad. It's not the right idea. It was really dumb to begin with. We don't like Pete to begin with. We're just going to cross them off the list, right? Whatever the reason, if you are keeping something in the funnel that doesn't belong there, you are creating opportunity cost inside your organization, inside your thought process, inside your brainstorm activity. Anytime you are not honest and scratching out things that you should be disqualifying, you are creating opportunity cost.
Absolutely. And it's funny, as sort of being steeped in your book and other learnings about sales and marketing, being on both sides of the sales table instead of just the buyer consumer, I'm starting to appreciate how useful a clear no is. Whereas before, I was like, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to hurt their feelings. They spend a lot of time, but just today, talk about the doors again. Someone apparently it was kind of hard for him to get this estimate for the doors. And I said, okay, so, what is this, pine? Okay. Does it have an STC sound blocking rating or a weight on it? Okay. No. All right. Well, I'll pass on those. Do you have any others? And so it's just like, the poor guy is like 8 minutes after his estimate got to me. I was like, those are out. Got anything else? He's like, not really. And so I used to think, I don't know, is that rude? Is that, should I be kind of nicer? But no, being on the other side, we appreciate knowing clearly. It's like, okay, I don't need to follow up with that person at all. I free the mental space, free the time and energy, and put that to someone else.
Amen. There's a book that I think you might like by Blair Enns. It's called The Four Conversations, and it's the art of selling, the idea of expertise, so the art of selling expertise. And he says this very clearly in the book. The exact wording will escape me, but to paraphrase, I would prefer a no than a maybe. And so
yeah.
he recommends that you ask for the no, that you say to someone, if this is not going to move forward, that is okay. Please tell me now. So we have this new mantra, because it's actually Blair Enns' mantra. And it is, I am the expert. I am the prize. I am here to help. All will not follow. That's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, like I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a salesperson, I want everyone to like me. I want everyone to be a part of the ecosystem. I want to help everyone. Like what we have can help everyone in my super, super tiny niche, which is actually a $2 trillion market. But if you are in my niche, I know that what I can do can help you. And so when they say no, I'm almost like, I wish you said yes, because I know I can help. But a hard no means that I can go spend that time finding the next customer who will see me as the expert. And so I think the same is in dating, right? Like, date a lot of people, but if they don't see you as the one, like it's time to move on, right? Like dated a lot of guys for a long time that weren't going to be it, right? And we're not going to be the one. And so this exactly the same thing as the opportunity cost of that time. Maybe because I'm a woman and like I did have to date in Chicago in my 20s. I have like this real affinity for dating out analogies. But it does oftentimes feel like you're being dumped or you're being rejected when someone says no. And it took me a long time to get over it. And now I ask for the no. Please be honest with me and tell me no, because I'd rather spend my time on someone else who's going to give me the strongest possible yes. And they're out there.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And well, I was in Chicago single for a while as well. I went on first dates with approximately 100 women before my dear bride and I found each other. And so I think that's a greit frame. And you're bringing me back too. I used to say, when they told me no, I thought of it almost like a marketing funnel myself. I was like, oh, actually, this person is disqualified due to inadequate Pete interest. Because that's one of my criteria. And she's not measuring up on it. So she's disqualified, as opposed to, I was rejected and I'm very sad about it. You know?
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And I love that in business too. Like, I am rejecting them because they don't want me as much as I need to be wanted to close this deal. I love it. Yeah. I think I might be reframing everything we do from now on.
Well, yeah, one of our first episodes, 14-ish, Andrea had a book called Go for No, which is really fun about pursuing the no's and making it more fun and less rejection-y. So very cool. And then also when it comes to a pipeline, you say that in many sales contexts, there's hidden gold that tends to be often found in a similar place. There's a pattern. Where is that hidden gold often found?
Yes. So one of the campaign strategies that we run, we call signs of life, which generally comes from sales teams or people like me disqualifying too early or kind of wrong timing. So you can still help this prospect or help this person, but maybe your timing was off the first time. And so we literally call it signs of life. And we just send an email to anyone who could potentially be a prospect. And we see about a 10% lift overall. And this is very specifically in freight, but it can be, applied to any B2B business. But it's kind of like sending out like a group WhatsApp to all the women that you dated, being like, hey, anybody thinking again? Anybody want a second shot? Right?
The group part is what's most terrifyingly interesting. Like you're gonna have a weird dream about this tonight, Kara. But no, I think that there's signs of life is a good way to say it. I think I was listening to the I Love Marketing podcast, and they talk about the 9-word email that revives dead leads, which is just kind of like, hey, are you still interested in launching a podcast or getting some freight brokerage go-to-market strategy advice, like whatever your thing is? And I've used that myself, and it's kind of amazing. They say, oh, yeah, well, that was like actually 7 months ago that I filled out the form. But you know what? Yeah, it would be a good time to pick up the conversation. So I think that's interesting in terms of anything or like job hunting, any company where the conversation got a little bit interesting, or, ooh, it wasn't quite the right time or the right fit, or they went with someone else, but it was close. There's a lot of power and opportunity often hiding there, but we discount them all the way to zero. We've written them off and moved on.
Yeah. So I think there's a delicate balance between writing someone off and moving on forever and the Signs of Life campaign. Professor John Dawes, who is in Australia, came up with the rule of 95. So he says 95% of your buying market, this is B2B specific, 95% of your buying market are not in market at any given time, which means that you're looking really like a needle in a haystack for the 5% that are in market at any given day, which means that if you hit them and they're not in market on Monday, and 3 Mondays from now, they might be in market and you just have no idea, right? There's no way to know. Now, there are ways to know whether someone's actually interested, and we can get into intent data on another time. But the point is that 95% of the individuals who could buy from you aren't buying the exact thing that you're trying to sell at that exact moment, which is kind of the joy of marketing, right? It's part of why we even exist, because if everyone was buying everything at the exact same time, we wouldn't need marketers to begin with. And so finding that 5%, that needle in the haystack, and uncovering exactly how you can help them at the exact right time it's the joy of what we do.
Well, it's beautiful to hear your fondness and passion for this, because some folks could very well be like, oh, it sounds so brutal. 95% of the time, they're like, get lost. I don't want this now. But that actually brings up another important conversation. In your book, you go into some detail about how sales goals are often generated in practice versus what is the best practice. And there is a wide chasm between the two. Could you paint these two pictures for us?
I think most of the time we see, specifically in SMB and sometimes in mid-market, we see leadership teams making goals that are just not aligned with reality.
So they just made it up, or it'd sure be nice to have this. The investors would like this. This would let me buy a boat. It's like there's some kind of thing driving it other than the underlying market realities.
Yes. There is a reason. There's always a reason, right? There's always a reason. There's a board member who decides that McDonald's is going to be your customer. There's a VC partner who's decided that he has to get a 12x return on this, or it's all for naught, right? Like there's always a reason why these totally irrational goals happen that become available. Very rarely is it the marketing team saying, hey, let's build ourselves a super irrational goal that we don't think we can hit. Normally, it is being imposed upon them. And so in the book, I talk a lot about having a point of view so that you don't end up getting in that position. So you have something to come back to the team that's giving you this kind of wild and outlandish goal that you know is totally impossible. And instead of just saying no, you're saying, okay, but can we look at it this way, or can we measure it in a different from a different perspective, or do we really think that's possible, or do the backwards math, right? Like, how do you expect us to get there? Today we're closing 2 deals a quarter, and the expectation is we're going to start closing 10 deals a month. That is an outrageous multiple. How much money are you giving us to execute that goal, right? So there's lots of ways to go about having that conversation, but I think what's more important is the go-to-market leadership on the marketing side. So the marketing piece of the go-to-market team has to have a point of view. And the number of times that I interview junior marketers in B2B orgs, and I ask them very basic questions about the sales team's goals, and they cannot answer, gives me all the information that I need. They're operating in a vacuum. They are not aligned with the sales team, and no one is sharing goals between these two organizations. And that happens more often than I'd like it to.
Yeah. So you've shared how goals often just fall downward upon us. Like someone has a number that they would like for some reason. Share with us how it's really done in terms of like best practice. This is what a robust revenue goal setting process looks like. Step 1 to 6 or whatever. And I think we could extract a little bit about that in terms of what great goal setting can look like for any number of things.
Sure. So, shameless plug, it's in the book. So we literally walk through this, and then we just finished the workbook, the companion workbook for the revenue engine. It'll be available on Amazon in a couple of weeks. And basically, we take you through this process in these exercises. And it's really what we call backwards math. There are a couple of components that you absolutely must have in order to understand your backwards math. And one is either ARR or LTV. ARR is annual run rate. So this is how much each of your deals or clients or boyfriends or ideas, whatever it is, whatever.
You give me
how,
$5,000 a year.
all right. Like, where's the better
And
check gonna come
dinners.
from? Whatever. No judgment. No judgment on exactly what you're charging for. And so the how much they're worth. ARR is the annual run rate, or how much they're worth to you over the next 12 months. Lifetime value, or LTV, is how much are they worth to you if they stay a customer for as long as your customers normally stay a customer. LTV is a much more complicated math equation. So 99% of the time we use ARR. The other option is just the average value of a deal, which is where we normally start. So start with the value of each deal. That's all you need to start with. So value, volume, and velocity. So then we're going to go up and backwards, and we're going to look at how many of those deals at that value do I need every single month to hit this goal. And then lastly is velocity. How fast do I need to hit those goals? How fast do I need to hit those volumes in my funnel to hit my goals to close those deals? You will also need a couple of what we call delta or conversion percentages. Oftentimes we make them up because most of our clients don't have them today. The only place to get your velocity metric is from inside your CRM. So your CRM is your customer relationship management tool. We like HubSpot. It's our favorite. It's easy, it's DIY, etc. And we can see how fast opportunities are moving through your funnel into closed deals if we can track the time stamping of activities inside the CRM. This all gets really complicated and kind of, mathematical, but really what you're asking me is, how do I do this backwards math to then walk into the room with my leadership team and say, here is my point of view as the marketer on what is achievable at the top, middle, and bottom of the funnel in order to hand these potential customers over to the sales team to close. And if you can walk in the room with that point of view and you can show the math behind that point of view, that marketer will have a seat at the table and the sales team will welcome them into sort of their goal setting exercise. But if you are showing up without a point of view and without understanding the key components of the backwards math, then you're just going to be handed a goal either top down or from the sales team over to the marketing group.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's so much goodness there in terms of, so the math is just translates reality into goal and vice versa. In terms of like, you want a $5 million? Well, here's what that means in terms of deals. And then you've also got a piece in there about having every record in your CRM software tool. What do you mean by this?
So this is a little different philosophy. And I'm really glad you asked this question because I've been having this question asked of me in my life lately. So our philosophy is very specific to B2B, but we believe that if you have a TAM or a total addressable market that is encapsulated, right? There is a finite end to the TAM. So I'm going to use something pretty specific from my marketplace, which is there are 19,677 shippers in America that matter. So the TAM or the total addressable market on shippers in America that really like matter to freight brokers is about 20,000.
So not me sending out t-shirts, but perhaps a shop that has thousands of packages going out.
Right. So we believe that because you know the TAM of exactly who can buy from you, you should procure or buy the email addresses attached to every human who could become a customer. What I did not say is that you should spam them. That's not what I said. I said you should own their email address. If your TAM is finite, there are absolutely ways to find these email addresses, and they should be in your CRM, preferably HubSpot. And here's why. When that human comes to your ecosystem because of your great marketing,
like your website.
Like your website or your LinkedIn profile or someone who's connected to you or the G2 crowd page, whatever it is, when they enter your ecosystem, because you own their email address inside your CRM, you can see that activity. If you don't own their email address in your CRM, they show up as an anonymous visitor. And anonymous visitors are not able to be monetized. So if you're going to try to monetize an audience, then you have to first build the audience and understand who the audience is. And the only way to do that is to literally buy the email addresses of the humans who could become your customer.
Mm-hmm. Or have a crew mercilessly crawling all over LinkedIn for days, one way or the other. So I think that also makes the goal setting all the more real. To that notion about perhaps only 5% of folks could be in market during a given time frame. Well, if you got your 20,000-ish shippers, then 5% of them, 1/20th, only 1,000 could even possibly buy from us. So like if your revenue goal is equal to 2,000 customers times the deal size, then it's already impossible.
That's right. It's already irrelevant. And you have to really be able to have that conversation with leadership, because it is pretty common that leadership doesn't actually know these numbers all the time. We do with this all the time. What is the actual TAM? How many shippers are there? How many brokers are there? How many t-shirt vendors are there? How many book vendors are there, right? Like these total addressable markets are findable. You can find them. And then you can build an audience just directed only to them and then find who is actually interested in what you're selling, because they will show up. They will show up on your website. But if you don't own them, if you don't know who they are and you haven't owned their email address, they will show up as an anonymous visitor and you'll never know that they were there.
So that's just handy to know that, hey, world, there's creepy software available that knows you by name if you're at certain websites.
It is so creepy, but it's called intent data and it's real and it's super creepy.
But in some ways, I think we've almost gotten over that. It's like, okay, yeah. Once I first saw my first retargeted ad, like, hey, wait a minute, I was just on that website. Over a decade ago, it's like, oh, okay, I guess this is just what's happening now. So I guess what I'm getting at for all this is if you have a job that has nothing to do with sales, these same principles apply in terms of if you really know the numbers inside and out, the bounds of what's possible. If you're in manufacturing, it's like, okay, time out a second. We're going to spend how much on this robot? Well, here's what that would really have to do for us in order to give us a reasonable return, or we're going to hire how many people, or is that like any goal, you can just sort of check the bounds of the rationality or sanity of it. And then if you're the person who is bringing these data to light and presenting it clearly with some mathematical linkages, and nobody else in their world is doing that, well, there's your seat at the table right there.
Amen. That is exactly where your seat at the table is. And oftentimes, the person that gets the most excited about this, that we don't see very often in these marketing and sales books, the person who gets the most excited about you bringing a point of view to the table is the CFO.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes in marketing situations in B2B, mid-market and SMB specifically, the CFO is the biggest deal breaker. They are the ones that are saying, "No way! I want to see real ROI." Right? I've never seen marketing produce any real revenue, et cetera. This is just in my experience, right? And if you can get the CFO on your side, if you can show them that you have a point of view and that you understand what a payoff looks like, or what ROI looks like, or what good looks like in your world, you can have a champion on the leadership team that you didn't expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, hey, the CFO is not a bad friend to have, certainly, as you're doing a career. Thank you. Well, so you've talked about having a point of view a few times, and you mentioned that having a point of view is better than advice. How are we defining point of view, and what's the distinction? And can we have some examples?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'm a member of the Entrepreneurs Organization, and we talk a lot about experience shares versus giving advice. And so I really like this. It's called the Gestalt method. It's a way to share information with people that isn't demeaning. And I really like this even in business. I like the idea of sharing an experience or sharing a point of view. And most of the time, if we share, this is what good looks like in our space. This is much easier to do if you're in a niche environment like we are. So this is what good looks like at your competitor. This is what good looks like at your compatriot, at someone who looks and feels like you. This is what good looks like. That's a solid point of view. And I think the other thing that has come up in my life lately, Pete, is that my point of view about buying the TAM is actually new to a lot of marketers. And I was pretty surprised. I was pretty surprised when I'm talking to people of my age or older who are considered veteran experts in marketing and sales and go to market. And I'm sharing this position, our point of view on owning and buying the TAM. And they're telling me I disagree. And I appreciate that because I love a good sparring, right, back and forth on the philosophies of go to market. But I think if we didn't have a point of view as a team, as a company, or as an author, then there wouldn't be anything interesting to read. And it wouldn't be very interesting to work with us. And we wouldn't be able to prove the ROI back to our customers because so much of what we do actually has to do with our point of view. And so many young marketers that I meet spend a lot of time worrying about the what. What are we sending? How are we sounding? What are the words that we're using? The messaging is super important. And my point of view is the who you're putting it in front of is actually more important than the what.
All
And so
day.
I think Thank you. I think sometimes just having a contrary point of view is also something that's interesting to people. And they want to have a conversation with you because you have a point of view. So I think having a point of view in general, in life, et cetera, you're always someone that had a very specific and unique point of view. I remember that very
Oh,
specifically.
me? Any examples come to mind, Kara?
Yeah, so many things about you in college. You knew exactly when you were getting married. You knew exactly what your life was going to look like. You knew exactly where you were going to work. I think some of that's changed for you, but you knew exactly what you were going to do and how you were going to get it done. And I always respected your point of view on how you were going to live your life. And I think it's very similar in some aspects to having a point of view on your professional exactly whatever your profession is. So whether you're a dentist or you make clothes for a living, have a point of view on what good looks like in your industry, and people will take you seriously.
Mm-hmm. And as in contrast to advice, which I think of sounds more like Something that the top page of Google or generic, we could dunk on AI a little bit because it has a lot of goodness to it, but with a broad prompt, like let's just say, how should I start a podcast? Right. So, I mean, sure, you could find plenty of search results on that. You'll get a bunch of steps associated with your microphone and your hosting, whatever. And that really does feel cheap and commoditized because it's just there. And I can get sort of like the standard issue truth of the matter in seconds effortlessly. But it takes an insider to tell you why. Here's why the Blue Yeti is a terrible microphone choice for the vast majority of contexts. Even though you read, some people said it's good. Here's why it's probably the wrong choice for you. So that's very minor or macro, but it really does, I think, highlight the core distinction between expertise you share that earns you street cred and gets folks to think, okay, this person knows something, as opposed to, yes, I too am capable of Googling things.
Yes. And I think there's a key word that we do not use when we experience share or when we share a point of view. And that is the word should.
Mm-hmm.
We don't should on people. So the word should is demeaning. It's almost like the word no, right? Like, Pete, you really should get a haircut before you come on to these podcasts,
It
right?
is. Your
hair looks great. Your hair looks great.
It's been a while.
But this shoulding someone, right? And so I think it's really important to keep the word should out of any conversation that you're having if you want to be taken seriously as an expert with a point of view that people are going to hear. Because the minute they hear the word should, they're going to shut down. Nobody wants to be shoulded.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I guess I'm just wrong. I'm just an idiot. I've been doing it all wrong my whole time. And at last, this genius visionary Kara is going to set us straight.
Yes. So we try really hard not to use the word should because I definitely don't want anyone to think that about me.
So then in terms of actual linguistic word choice, you might say, our point of view is, or we believe, or we've seen great results by.
Or may I share an experience? Or may I tell you a story about when this worked for us? And I use that a lot. And we share 3 core strategies that work in supply chain, which I will not bore your audience with. But there are 3 core strategies that work in supply chain go to market. And I usually ask the question before I share them. May I share with you our 3 key strategies that work in supply chain and the ROI that they've delivered? And people are usually like, yes, please. That's why we're on the call. And so I think I am then asking permission to share my point of view. And never once do I say, you should do these things. I'm just saying, here is our point of view on what is working with your compatriots and your competitors.
Yeah. You're also articulating something like one of my pet peeves when I'm reading the news and I'm like, man, what is like, I'm just a weirdo, but I really bristle when I see a news headline say something what you need to know. Like Pope Francis's death, what you need to know. I was like, well, I mean, because that's sort of like the hubris, the presumption.
But you don't know already.
Like you don't know me. My relationship to the Catholic faith and Pope Francis. So because context matters a lot in terms of like what you need to know about anything varies quite a bit in terms of like, it might just be nothing. Like this is a thing that happened. Some people might be talking about it. So now you know, or just by reading the headline. Or it might be, you are a cardinal who is going to elect the next pope. It's like, there may be a whole lot more things you need to know.
Yeah, you should probably know more than what the headline is going to give you from the Daily Mail. Yeah, yeah.
Or like politics of all sorts is like what you need to know is like, well, maybe nothing until election day. I'm probably not going to do anything at all with this information.
And I think where the information comes is also super important, right? Like I do not belong giving advice on business to consumer at all. I had someone ask me today, what do you know about B2C? And I said, absolutely nothing. I hope you hire someone else. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I'm going to do that, right? So I think the credibility of the what you should know question is also really important. Is what is the source of this information, right? Very different what the source of the information on Pope Francis from the Daily Mail than from, the Vatican blog.
Yeah, certainly. Well, Kara, tell me, anything else you want to make sure to mention before we hear about some of your favorite things?
I am just so glad that I was here. Thank you so much for this. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, shucks. Well, you too. You too. Big thanks to Kara for sharing her wisdom with us. And big thanks to our sponsors. Check them out. One sponsor to check out is strawberry.me Career Coaching. Having real clarity and direction can make or break your career. If it seems like you're putting in the work but not seeing your career take off, some coaching might be just the ticket. Strawberry.me matches you with certified career coaches who help you gain clarity on what you really want next in your career, develop a results-driven strategy, and stay accountable. And they can also help you flourish beyond career issues. I had a fantastic session with my coach, Brett, about handling stress from so many responsibilities in so many areas. He was fun. He was wise. He just really got me. We had some laughs and a good time and a good rapport. And he gave me an exercise that has been so quick and so effective for me. I've been doing it every day. So if you're ready to take control and build momentum in your career, go to strawberry.me/awesome to claim your $50 credit. That's strawberry.me/awesome. Because awesome careers don't just happen, you make them happen. Well, now let's hear about a favorite quote, something you find inspiring.
My favorite quote is, "The enemy of progress is perfection." And so we need to make sure that I give this advice to clients, and this is sometimes actually straight advice, not an experience share, that everything digital can be changed. And so if you're not going to physically print it in a book, it's okay to send it and we can change it. And then I wrote a book. And it was the scariest moment of like saying yes and hitting the send button on it because it's in print and there are mistakes in it and I've found them and it's so embarrassing. Even still, perfection is still the enemy of progress and I wouldn't take it back.
Okay. And a favorite study or experiment or bit of research?
We do our own studies and research internally. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of is our new experimentation around answer engine optimization. So we're doing as much research as we can around how are our clients found on large language models versus how are they found in traditional SEO. Hyper technical, and we won't go into the results yet. But I'm really proud of the work that my team is doing and helping our customers understand how they're going to be found on large language models.
And a favorite book?
So besides my own, I think my favorite right now is The Hard Thing About Hard Things. I think it's one I come back to all the time as an entrepreneur.
All right. And a favorite tool?
So there's a super creepy tool that I like a lot that you might find kind of gross, but it's called Crystal Knows. So Crystal Knows is a psychographic profiling tool that tells you the DISC profile of any human on LinkedIn based on their LinkedIn and Google activity. And it is the creepiest, coolest thing that I've ever had an opportunity to be a part of.
And a favorite habit?
My favorite habit is I go to bed at trade shows. So when I go to trade shows, which is all the time, I go to bed at 9:00.
Mm-hmm. And is there a key nugget you share that really seems to connect and resonate with folks? They quote it back to you often?
Share good news, track interest, follow up. I feel like any good marketer has a nice solid, 1, 2, 3 in their back pocket. And I've been saying it long enough that people are now saying it back to me.
Okay. And if folks want to learn more or get in touch, where would you point them?
I would point them to karasmithbrown.com or leadcoverage.com. And you can always find me on LinkedIn because I am very active.
And do you have a final challenge or call to action for someone looking to be awesome at their job?
So my final call to action for someone looking to be awesome at their job is to say yes. Take the opportunity, whatever it is in front of you. It may be really hard. It may be super easy. But if you are the person that always says yes and gets it done, you will go very, very far.
All right. Kara, thank you.
That was so fun.
I love what Kara had to say about opportunity cost. And I used to say it all the time in keynote speeches, and I still believe it because it's true. The hard reality, the difficult truth of opportunity cost is that in choosing to do one thing, we simultaneously choose not to do all other things under the sun. So the weight, the heft, the sheer amount of opportunity cost, I think is greater than most of us realize. Great perspectives from Kara. If you want to check out the show notes or the transcript or the links to items that we've referenced, please pay us a visit at awesomeatyourjob.com/EP1054. Hope to catch you next time, and peace.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone? Like yesterday. With Indeed, there's no need to stress. You can find amazing candidates fast using sponsored jobs. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people you want faster. And just how fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to the Indeed data worldwide. Seriously, there's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed, and listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/WonderyUS. Just go to Indeed.com/WonderyUS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/WonderyUS. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.